Secretary of State Ruth Johnson, and Senator Dave Robertson from Genesee County. I'm just going to make a few opening comments about transparency, and then I'm going to hand it off to our panel, and then we're going to open up to questions at the end. Transparency is a very important issue to Americans for Prosperity. We have been working on this for several years. It's not really one of those glamorous issues, but it's a very important issue to lay out the groundwork for change in the future. The state constitution in Article 9, Section 23 says all financial records, accountings, audit reports, and other reports of public money shall be public record and open to inspection. Thomas Jefferson said, "We might hope to see the finances of the Union as clear and intelligible as a merchant's books, so that every member of Congress and every man of any mind in the Union should be able to comprehend them, to investigate abuses, and consequently to control them." Back in the 70s, we had Freedom of Information Act and Open Meetings Act, and this was primarily a Democrat initiative, but it's become a mainstay here in Michigan and across the country. Derek Mallow, a columnist with the Lansing State Journal, said about FOIA and Open Meetings Act, and now what we call checkbook transparency, is that this is a natural extension of where we need to go next. All we're asking when we talk about transparency, and in particular checkbook transparency, is that the financial records of how money is spent is published in real time online. Sorry to go back to the $6 million man. We have the means, we have the capability, we have the technology. There's no reason our state government, our local units of government shouldn't be doing this. Interestingly enough, Barack Obama teamed up with Senator Coburn in the U.S. Senate. This is one good idea that was started in D.C. I think that's the only time I've ever made that statement in regards to this issue. So basically, what we're asking is that state government put all its finances online. Missouri does this. They do a great job. The Michigan House of Representatives, the Republican caucus, has been a leader in this. And I believe Representative Tom McMillan will talk about this. But you can go on and see every salary of every employee in the Michigan House. You can see how every single member spends their office allotment. You can see their benefits. It's really great. And I guess I would ask Senator Dave Robertson to go back to the Senate and ask Senator Richard Bill to do the same in the Senate. And then we also need to get Governor Snyder to do the same for all $46 billion in state spending. But I'd like to turn it over right now to Representative Tom McMillan.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for the invitation. I really am encouraged by the group that is gathered. And transparency has been something that's been critical for myself. I really believe transparency equals freedom. I mean, that is, I can't tell you who's going to be in power next session in 10 years or 20 years or 40 years from now. But if the more we seize the opportunity to have transparency, to blow open and show everybody how the money is spent, how the decisions are made, how permits are accepted or denied, how decisions are made, the more that even if Democrats, even if liberals, even if far left people are involved, if we can at least get factual information and keep it open, I think that we'll have a lot more freedom. So we have a window of opportunity. I don't know how long it's going to be. I don't know if it's 2 years or 10 years. Hopefully with the help of good folks like you, it'll be a lot longer. Maybe that window won't close, but the more we can get truth out there through transparency, I think the better. Now I'll get into specifics later as we answer questions or, as far as specific legislation. But I just wanted to fly 40,000 feet real quick and just say that, I'm encouraged by our governor and his drive that comes from his business background of outcomes and metrics. Government hates measuring itself, and because things could go bad. And if they go bad, then they could be held accountable. And so I'm very encouraged by outcomes and metrics that the governor is talking about, though we need to make sure that there's strong transparency in this. We shouldn't be looking at how many people we're giving checks to on welfare, but actually the metric should be how many we're getting off of welfare. And so, understanding the right outcomes and metrics, I think, and making sure it's transparent so that just somehow it always is getting better, even though we know it's not. We need to make sure that we can, as citizens, drill down into those metrics and understand whether the outcomes are true or not. And I think we really need to, not just at the state level, but demand from government, and I was the first one in the legislature 2 years ago to put my staff salaries, their names, their salaries, my pay and benefit package, and how much the state pays for my benefit package online. And people were a little bit upset at me. I just have 2 staff, by the way, but they were upset because then people get uncomfortable. When I was in Auburn Hills and a city councilman, they were uncomfortable whenever we talked about people's names and salaries, but we've got to get over that. These people work for us, and I got to tell you, right now we have a lot of budget debates, and I just was at my district hours, and it always devolves because you've got teachers that say, we've given, and we've got police and fire and all this, and maybe it's true, but maybe it's not. You never know. I'd like to be able to say, well, you said you've given. Let's pull up, what's your name? Okay, let's pull it up here. Mary, you actually have got the pay increase over the last 5 years. You're making 20% more, and your benefit package is a Cadillac benefit package. I mean, we should be able to do that for every name of every government worker. And if it's a little uncomfortable, too bad. They work for us. They don't have to. They could get a job in the private sector and have that confidential. But that's where we've got to demand, because I've got friends here from Troy. They were fighting a millage, and they said, the city said, well, we're going to have to close the library. We have no choice. Well, they had choices. They were paying tons of people 6 figures, benefit packages that are Cadillac benefit packages. So, it's a matter of making sure that we have the information, and we got to demand it. And so I would say that the state level is certainly one area, but you folks have to demand it as well. And we have to seize the opportunities. I remember when Detroit Water and Sewer, when the sludge hauling contract of $1 billion was given out, and there's people in jail now because of that. But, that was a time where I put in a bill to at least get those contracts for anything over $25,000 in the Detroit Water and Sewer online. I mean, it didn't, it's still in committee now. It didn't go anywhere 2 years ago. But I mean, if there's a groundswell, whenever there's some item that says this screams out for transparency, we need to seize that opportunity. And we need to make our own opportunities at the local level. In Auburn Hills, they're the only city. When I was there, I kept pushing for an ordinance. Right now, if anybody comes before the council, it's still in place, that wants tax abatement, a rezoning, they want a contract, that they want money from the city, the city planner, the city engineer. There's a lot of these that are private. Their donation history of the executives and the owners of those companies for the last 5 years and their spouses have to be present and in the package for all to see at the time those decisions are being made. And it used to happen all the time in Auburn Hills, where that's who would be the big donors. It isn't anymore. They don't donate to the council members anymore. And as a matter of fact, the people on the council are considering removing that ordinance because they said nobody uses it anymore. Nobody gives to us. But I said that's the exact purpose of it. And so, we just need to make our own opportunities, and people say, well, what can I do in my little community? Look, if Holt, Michigan all of a sudden did something like that, or if you were able to uncover some spending fraud or some, Cadillac benefits when they said that they've cut all they can, that will feed on itself, and others will be, emboldened. And I tell you, I believe that, like Scott said, we're in, this is the technology's there. We're in the 21st century. There is no reason they shouldn't be able to put as much as you want online. And again, I can get into more details of some of my legislation and what's going through Lansing. But like Scott said, after I put my staff salaries online, a few and benefits and all, a few followed. But then this year, our speaker, Jace Bolger, said, let's just make it for everybody. He said that's the way it's going to be. Is we're going to tell everybody how much we're making, how much, what the benefit packages are. So I just think that the little victories that you could actually get will be very beneficial statewide, especially with bloggers and CapCon and things like that to really shout it from the rooftops. So I'm excited. I really think we have a window of opportunity. We should demand nothing less than full transparency. Certainly there needs to be areas of FOIA reform, Open Meetings Act. There's a gentleman here who exposed the Open Meetings Act Jeremy in my district, something that looks like a violation from our school board, making decisions on superintendents at a closed meeting. I mean, we shouldn't tolerate these things, and it's a 95% approval rating. These are very popular. Democrats, everybody. I mean, who's going to stand up and say, I want this stuff closed? I don't want it exposed. Let's take advantage of it, demand it. We have a great opportunity now. Our governor wants it. I'll end with this. A high-ranking person up in the governor's office said, you know what, we want transparency. We want to blow it wide open because we know that as time goes on, our folks, our lieutenants, will start seeing the benefit of hiding the information, we're afraid. And so we know that human nature is going to be to not show what's going wrong. So we want to blow it wide open as much as we can. So let's really encourage that. I think we have a governor that doesn't really have much to lose. He just wants to get it out there, and if it's bad, that's what executives like to do, is fix the bad stuff. And so he kind of wants to get into that stuff and really expose the problems. I think we ought to encourage it at the state level and demand it at the local level. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Next, we have Senator Dave Robertson.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be here this morning and to have an opportunity to contribute to the discussion. If I could offer a couple of thoughts on transparency. Let me say this, that I think a number of things, I think it's a wonderful thing the way a number of things have come together over the last many years. The rise of the internet, blogosphere, and the ascendancy of the Tea Party movement, they all kind of go hand in hand. Isn't it incredible how liberating it's been that all of these various things have come together to make the political environment and the information environment that we now have today? You have to think back that it's truly remarkable. We're in the Reagan room, and Ronald Reagan is referenced in our program. It's remarkable to think that Ronald Reagan was as successful as he was before the rise of talk radio, before Fox News, before there was any real conservative voice. We had ABC, CBS, NBC, and maybe a local UHF channel on TV. And so the world has really changed quite a bit. And I think the drive for transparency is part and parcel of what of freedom and been a liberating component that has really driven the politics of the last many years and the success of the Tea Party movement. I've been involved in politics since my early days as a youngster, campaigning in Macomb County in the 1980s for a fellow named Doug Carl, who was a pretty non-conservative anti-tax man who fought the tax battles against Blanchard's income tax increase in the 1980s and property tax spike for the passage of Proposal A before Proposal A. And so I see transparency as a great thing. But let me also say that I think it can't be just a matter of making information available over the internet and through the new media, but we need to have a combination of both information and advocacy, or information and explanation. We need to have information presented and available in a way that is easily understandable with regard to legislators' actions, legislators' voting records. It's not enough to know how they voted on a particular bill without paying close attention to how they voted on the specifics of perhaps an amendment or watching an action in committee. Everything in combination needs to be paid attention to. And having information available from the State Departments and from the executive branch and the legislature all feed into a greater understanding on your part and make you stronger and better advocates as members of the Tea Party. I'm always reminding folks that bureaucrats and bureaucracies want two things. They want more money and anonymity. And we have to fight against both of those because they just want to give us more money and leave us alone. When you shine light, or when you ask a question of anyone, if you're trying to advocate like I do, I take a very aggressive approach with regard to pursuing constituent matters on behalf of my constituents. I'm counting on the fact that they want to be left alone, okay? So when a person comes to me with a constituent matter, I approach the bureaucracy and say, all right, A, B, C, D, and E, but I want to know this, that, and the other about what you're doing. And they will do it and give me the information I need and hopefully solve my constituents' problem just so that they can go away and be left alone again until the next time I go after them for whatever issue arises and whatever issue they're not performing on. So I really think it's important that we understand that transparency is more than just the downloading of